Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm the flight guide and today we're going to be looking at 4 different charts that you will need when flying on Vatsim. For this video we're going to be using Chartfox, which is the service I use to get my charts when flying, and it's completely free. So I definitely recommend you check it out. I'll leave a link in the description. So the 4 charts we're going to be looking at today are for Heathrow Airport. So we're going to be looking at the taxi chart, or as it's called, the AERODROME chart, a standard departure chart, which looks like this, and then an arrival chart, and an ILS chart. All of these charts are types of charts that you will need when flying on Vatsim, so it's good that you get to learn how they work and what everything means. So we're going to go in order of a normal flight today. So first of all, you'd use the AERODROME chart to taxi to the runway, then you'd use the departure chart, and then you'd use the arrival chart, then you'd use the ILS chart, and then you'd use another AERODROME chart for taxiing, but because it's going to be the same airport, we'll just use the one today. So let's start off with, of course, the AERODROME chart. On Chartfox, if you wish to get the chart in full screen, you can press this full screen icon up here, and it will stretch across the whole screen, and then you can use these to zoom in and out. It may look a bit confusing at first with these different letters and numbers. Once you get used to it, it will look a bit more simple. So something we can clearly see here is the terminals. You can see this is Terminal 3, Terminal 2A, Terminal 1, and so on. So this is going to be where most of the planes are parked. We also have other terminals that are just off the side of the main terminals, which normally would be accessed by an airport bus. At Heathrow, there's one to the right of the main terminals, and there's 2 to the left of the main terminals. There's also another terminal on the grass near the car park. Coming down to the bottom of the airport, we have the cargo apron, which is used for things like 747s for their cargo operations. At Heathrow, as you can see, there are 2 cargo aprons. There's one here, and there's one here. We can also see another terminal here down to the south, which will also be accessed to, most likely, by an airport bus. So let's have a look at a standard taxi route you may be taking for your flight. So let's say you are parked at Pier 5 on Terminal 3, and let's say runway 09 left was in use. So a normal taxi route would be, after pushing back, you'd face north. You'd also be on taxiway hotel as marked here. Everything this colour is a taxiway, and that goes throughout most charts. However, some charts differ, but once you've learned one chart, you'll basically be able to transfer that over to any other chart. So once you've pushed back onto taxiway hotel, you will then call up ground and you will request your taxi to 09 left. Most of the time, the taxi instruction will sound like this. Speedboard 123, taxi holding point Alpha Bravo 13 via Hotel Bravo, link 56. So in that instruction, the plane that was on taxiway hotel was given a holding point of Alpha Bravo 13. Holding points are marked with a black box and a small yellow line around them with yellow writing in the middle. As you can see, there are also yellow lines on the taxiway on this chart, and they will be in the sim. So the holding point Alpha Bravo 13 is just behind threshold of 09 left and is on the back of the displaced threshold. Then the plane was given a taxi instruction. The plane was given taxi instructions to taxi to Alpha Bravo 13 via Hotel Bravo and link 56. As you can see, this big long taxiway along here is Bravo. As you can see at this turn here, taxiway Bravo bends and goes around the corner, meaning that this is also taxiway Bravo. And then at this turn, you can see taxiway Bravo bends again. And then this is also taxiway Bravo. Once again, it bends up here, meaning this is also taxiway Bravo. and then we're back to where we started. So the whole outside of all the aprons and things in the centre of the airport is taxiway Bravo. This happens again for taxiway Alpha, as we can see. We can also see at various points around the chart these red boxes with different words, letters and numbers in. These different holding points throughout the aerodrome. The ones in red are ones used that are not adjoining to an active runway. For example, holding point November 7 is adjoining to the active runway, because as soon as you pass November 7, you're going to be on the runway. However, the holding points in the red box do not adjoin to a runway. For example, this holding point Avro, once you pass Avro, either way, you will not be entering a runway. These can be found all throughout the aerodrome, as they're used when there's a lot of planes on the ground and you'll need to hold different aircraft in different positions. So let's say in this case there were 2 aircraft taxiing around Heathrow. Let's say aircraft A is our aircraft on taxiway Hotel, and let's say aircraft B was taxiing down Bravo, also taxiing to Alpha Bravo 13. However, this time they're taxiing via Bravo, and then they're using link 58 and then Alpha and link 57 to get to Alpha Bravo 13. However, because this plane's path also crosses with our plane's path, one of us is going to need a holding point. Luckily, there are 2 holding points on this corner of taxiway Bravo that we could use. One of them could be used for our aircraft taxiing down this Bravo, which will be Rabbit. However, one of them could be used for aircraft B taxiing down this Bravo, which is Dingo. As you can see, just like the active runway holding points, these also have a yellow line on the taxiway. So let's say our aircraft was given the holding point of Rabbit due to aircraft B also crossing our path. The taxi instruction would then sound a bit like this. Speedbird 123 taxi via Hotel Bravo, hold Rabbit. Because the holding point was then given last and not at the start of the instruction, we can definitely be sure this is not a holding point for an active runway. So then when we're looking for the holding point on our chart, we'll know to look for the ones in red. However, sometimes you may be given the holding point at the start, like we was before. In that situation, we could then also know that this holding point is not for a runway because it is a full word. However, you do then get holding points like Charlie 2. So it's not always that simple. But that is what a simple taxi instruction could sound like. Moving on, we have the standard instrument departure chart for Heathrow. Today we're going to be looking at the Brookmans Park 5 kilo departure, which we can see will be departing from 09 left onto the Brookmans Park 5 kilo. As you can see, the Brookmans Park 5 kilo is coming from 09 left. As we can see, that passes the BPK 5 kilo marked there. So looking at this chart from the top down, we can see many different things. Here we have all of the frequencies that you will need if you're using this chart. Most of the time this is the same if you're on Vatsim, however sometimes it does change slightly, so make sure you check before writing all of these down. Then we can see our transition altitude here, which is 6,000. This is 6,000 feet, and this is the altitude in which you swap from the local QNH to the standard pressure. Right at the top, we can make sure we have the right chart by seeing the airport. Right at the top, we can make sure we have the right airport by seeing London Heathrow. And we can see all the departures covered in this chart. Then we can see the scale, which you won't really use that often. Then coming down, we can see we have a warning, and we'll come on to that later. So after departure from 09 left, we're going to be on the Brookmans Park 5 kilo departure. Here you will see a heading. This will be the heading that we will turn after departure. Then you can see the next heading, which will be 071, and again the next heading, 016, and so on. and you'll see that on all the charts. However, you will rarely use them headings because most of the time you'll be on an LNAV profile. Here we can see a no-fly zone outlined in pink, and we can see the altitudes that it is for. So here we can see in the middle, surface level up till 1,400. However, this won't really affect us as we're only going on right on the edge of this no-fly zone, and by that point we'll be well above 1,400 feet. Next thing we're going to look at is an altitude restriction. Here we can see an altitude with a line below it. Think of this line like a block that you cannot pass. If it's at the bottom of the altitude, that means you cannot go below that altitude. If it's at the top of the altitude, that means you cannot go above that altitude. And if it's on the top and the bottom of the altitude, that means you must be at that exact altitude at that waypoint. So by delta 10, you must be above 3,000 feet. By BPK delta 10, you must be above 4,000 feet. By BPK delta 6, you must be at 6,000 feet. And by BPK, you must be at 6,000 feet. So going back over to this warning, after we've reached BPK delta 6, we cannot exceed 6,000. Even after passing BPK, we then cannot go above 6,000 until we're cleared by ATC. Also coming down to the bottom here, we have the text for our departure. It basically just briefs us on what we're going to be doing. Then we also have some general information, which just tells you some different things about the airport and the departure. And on to the arrival chart now. We're going to be looking at the Lambourne 1 Yankee arrival. So starting from the top again, we can see the transition altitude is 6,000. Transition level, however, will be given by ATC. However, if you're on Vatsim, you'll just use the standard 6,000. Again, you have all of the frequencies you will need, and this time you also have different waypoints. Next to the waypoints, you can also see their place on the Earth with their coordinates. Again, we can see the location and all the different arrivals covered. Again, we have a warning. Same for minimum descent rate requirements. See this. That will be another chart found also on ChartFox. Then we also have another warning. Do not proceed beyond OCK, OCCAM, without ATC clearance. So, as we're coming in, if we're not given ATC clearance to proceed past OCCAM, we must hold at OCCAM. We can see that by the hold pattern indicated on the chart. Here we can also see the flight level that we need to be at for this hold, which is by OCCAM, which is flight level 70. We cannot be above or below it, which we can see by the line both above and below. For the hold itself, we can go up to flight level 150 or stay at 70. Going back up then, looking at the start of the arrival, we can see we have a maximum speed of 250 knots. You can also see the heading from Lambourne over to Dorky. Then in the middle, we can see the distance in nautical miles. Here we have descent planning, which basically says actual descent clearance will be directed by ATC. Again, you also have general information telling you about the arrival and the airport. And finally, we have the ILS chart for runway 27 right. Again, up right at the top, we can see all the different frequencies we will need. We can see the elevation. We can see the obstacle elevation. And we can see the transition altitude. We can also see the airport and the chart, the runway, and the aircraft categories supported. Here we can see the ILS frequency, which you may need if you're on aircraft like the Boeing 737. And we can see that frequency is 113.6. Here once again we can see the no-fly zone, and again the altitude, surface level, to 1,400 feet. For reference, we can also see OCCAM, which is the hold that we saw in the last chart. We can also then see the frequency for OCCAM. Here we can see different elevations. We can see here there's elevation at 426 feet, 425 feet, 956 feet, 1,087 feet, and so on, all throughout the chart. Coming down, we can see the DMEs. So 7 DME is when you reach 2,370 feet, 6 DME, 2,050, 4 DME, 1,410, and so on. Radio decision height is your decision altitude, which you will set in your aircraft. If you're on an Airbus, you'll set that in the MCDU, and if you're in a Boeing, you'll be able to set that on the control panel next to the flight control unit. Here we have missed approach. So in the event of a go-around, you'll climb to 3,000 feet straight ahead until passing 1,580 feet, or whenever you reach DME 0, whichever is later. Then you'll turn right onto track 316 and then continue as directed by ATC. In the event of a radio failure, on passing London DME 10, turn right to NDB Charlie Hotel Tango at 3,000 feet. Here we can see the glide path. So we can see it's a normal glide path, indicated by glide path 3 degrees. The normal glide path is 3 degrees. Here we can see the intercept altitude, which means we must be at 2,500 to intercept the glide path on time. Here we can also see the heading of the ILS, which is 269, also seen up here, 269. Here we can also have some notes telling us about the arrival and the airport. So there we go, that is 4 different charts covered that you will need when flying on Vatsim during an IFR flight. Once again, I do recommend Chartfox. It's really easy to use. You can just choose what phase of flight you want the chart to be, so just general, taxi, standard instrument departure, standard arrival, or approach for your selected airport, and the chart will appear. If you wish to have the chart in a separate tab, you can also come down here and click on this, and it will open in a new tab with just the chart. As always, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. And if you want to support me even more, check out the first link in the description.